Okay, great to have all of you here. And I'm going to make a quick announcement. I will not be here next Monday. So you have the week off unless you want to go ahead and read ahead or read from the Manual for Teachers, which is something I absolutely love to read. But I'm always available if you want to send me messages, send me emails. I think you all have my email address. So always feel free to reach out if you want to discuss anything. And today we are on chapter 14, section 4, your function in the At-One-Ment. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen in just a minute when the clock strikes 12:30. Don't want to get started prematurely and have anybody miss out. Great to have you guys here on this busy week. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. Okay. All right. Your function in the At-One-Ment. When you accept a brother's guiltlessness, you will see the At-One-Ment in him. For by proclaiming it in him, you make it yours, and you will see what you sought. You will not see the symbol of your brother's guiltlessness shining within him while you still believe it is not there. His guiltlessness is your At-One-Ment. Grant it to him, and you will see the truth of what you have acknowledged. Yet truth is offered first to be received, even as God gave it first to his Son. The first in time means nothing, but the first in eternity is God the Father, who is both first and one. Beyond the first, there is no other, for there is no order, no second or third, and nothing but the first. You who belong to the first cause, created by him, like unto himself, and part of him, are more than merely guiltless. The state of your guiltlessness is only the condition in which what is not there has been removed from the disordered mind that thought it was. This state and only this must you attain, with God beside you. For until you do, you will still think that you are separate from him. You can perhaps feel his presence next to you, but cannot know that you are one with him. This cannot be taught. Learning applies only to the condition in which it happens of itself. When you have let all that obscured the truth in your most holy mind be undone for you, and therefore stand in grace before your Father, he will give himself to you as he has always done. Giving himself is all he knows, and so it is all knowledge. For what he knows not cannot be, and therefore cannot be given. Ask not to be forgiven, for this has already been accomplished. Ask rather to learn how to forgive and to restore what always was to your unforgiving mind. At-One-Ment becomes real and visible to those who use it. On earth, this is your only function, and you must learn that it is all you want to learn. You will feel guilty till you learn this, for in the end, whatever form it takes, your guilt arises from your failure to fulfill your function in God's mind with all of yours. Can you escape this guilt by failing to fulfill your function here? You need not understand creation to do what must be done before that knowledge would be meaningful to you. God breaks no barriers, neither did he make them. When you release them, they are gone. God will not fail, nor ever has in anything. Decide that God is right and you are wrong about yourself. He created you out of himself, but still within him. He knows what you are. Remember that there is no second to him. There cannot therefore be anyone without his holiness, nor anyone unworthy of his perfect love. Fail not in your function of loving, in a loveless place, made out of darkness and deceit. For thus are darkness and deceit undone. Fail not yourself, but instead offer to God and you his blameless Son. For this small gift of appreciation for his love, God will himself exchange your gift for his. Before you make any decisions for yourself, remember that you have decided against your function in heaven, and then consider carefully whether you want to make decisions here. Your function here is only to decide against deciding what you want, in recognition that you do not know. How then can you decide what you should do? Leave all decisions to the one who speaks for God, and your function as he knows it. So will he teach you to remove the awful burden you have laid upon yourself by loving not the Son of God and trying to teach him guilt instead of love. Give up this frantic and insane attempt that cheats you of the joy of living with your God and Father, and of waking gladly to his love and holiness that join together as the truth in you, making you one with him. When you have learned how to decide with God, all decisions become as easy as right as breathing. There is no effort, and you will be led as gently as if you were being carried down a quiet path in summer. Only your own volition seems to make deciding hard. The Holy Spirit will not delay in answering your every question what to do. He knows, and he will tell you, and then do it for you. You who are tired will find this more restful than sleep, for you can bring your guilt into sleeping, but not into this. Unless you are guiltless, you cannot know God, whose will is that you know him. Therefore, you must be guiltless. Yet, if you do not accept the necessary conditions for knowing him, you have denied him and do not recognize him, though he is all around you. He cannot be known without his Son, whose guiltlessness is the condition for knowing him. Accepting his Son as guilty is denial of the Father, so complete that knowledge is swept away from recognition in the very mind where God himself has placed it. If you would but listen and learn how impossible this is, do not endow him with attributes you understand. You made him not, and anything you understand is not of him. Your task is not to make reality. It is here without your making, but not without you. You who have tried to throw yourself away and valued God so little, hear me speak for him and for yourself. You cannot understand how much your Father loves you, for there is no parallel in your experience of the world to help you understand it. There is nothing on earth with which it can compare, and nothing you have ever felt apart from him resembles it ever so faintly. You cannot even give a blessing in perfect gentleness. Would you know of one who gives forever and who knows of nothing except giving? The children of heaven live in the light of the blessing of their Father because they know that they are sinless. The At-One-Ment was established as the means of restoring guiltlessness to minds that have denied it, and thus denied heaven to themselves. At-One-Ment teaches you the true condition of the Son of God. It does not teach you what you are or what your Father is. The Holy Spirit, who remembers this for you, merely teaches you how to remove the blocks that stand between you and what you know. His memory is yours. If you remember what you have made, you are remembering nothing. Remembrance of reality is in him and therefore in you. The guiltless and the guilty are totally incapable of understanding one another. Each perceives the other as like himself, making both unable to communicate because each sees the other unlike the way he sees himself. God can communicate only to the Holy Spirit in your mind, because only he shares the knowledge of what you are with God. And only the Holy Spirit can answer God for you, for only he knows what God is. Everything else that you have placed within your mind cannot exist. For what is not in communication with the mind of God has never been. Communication with God is life. Nothing without it is at all. And once again, a lot of what we discussed earlier has now come to the surface. Nick was sharing a situation that he had with a coworker or partner, right?
Yes.
And there's the answer right there, right? You need to see her guiltless.
Yeah.
And just totally loving. And it doesn't mean that she's right or that you're right. It just means that she is love, right?
Yes. Yes. Totally.
And I think the other part that brought up for me too is we always think we have to fix it, right? We have to know the right thing to say. We have to know the answer. How do we fix this and deal with this? And it's not ours to know. All we need to do is let it go and ask the one who does know, right? And it's just another lesson again, let go, let God. Ask the Holy Spirit to intervene.
Mm. Mm.
There's a great lesson, and I know probably at least one of you would know which one it is. And it's a quote that says, ask me what to say, what to do, and where to go, something like that. It's kind of a prayer that you say to the Holy Spirit. And it's a great thing to remember whenever you're in that place of not knowing, whenever you're in that place of fear, right? Because once you're in that place of fear, you've already aligned with fear. And you're not going to have the right answer. So you have to let it go.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
I also heard in this, I was so excited to hear it because I didn't realize that this message was in the course. And so I'm happy to realize it because it's been my experience to try to re-explain that we do not need to think, we have to understand every little thing. We just keep coming up with more. Well, if this is spirit, can it do this? Can it do that? Can I, it's like all of this kind of, I will believe when blank is understood by me, or when I run out of questions, or whatever. And it is, stated so purely, so clearly here that once you are in spirit, that is when all is revealed. And so it's go there first, then you'll know what you need to know when you need to know it, and you will know that you can do that whenever you want, that it is always connected to you, so you don't need to set, again, the opposite premise, if you will, that we do in duality. It's like, show me, prove me, do me, everything, and then I will follow you. It's like, no, follow me, and then all is yours.
Yeah, good point, Mary. Thank you so much for pointing that out.
Yeah.
He says somewhere in the course too, and Mary, you prompted this, is if you like, think of me as taking your hand and leading you like a little child, and you don't question your father, literally your father in this world, but you don't question your father in the real world, because you trust him. There's this impeccable trust. The problem is in our little make-believe world, we don't have that trust. We have what I would call a half trust. Like well, I'll only go this far and then I got to do all this stuff over here because how could God possibly accomplish all these little tasks? And what we don't realize is those little tasks are completely meaningless. They have absolutely no place in God's world in most cases. So I won't get into all the little stuff, but it's either 100% or it's nothing. One little doubt coming in, I think he said it here in these paragraphs, is enough to just kind of blip. And then you gotta, what did I do? Oh, yes, I wasn't trusting. Take his hand again. And let him lead you. I mean, it's silly in a way. I mean, we've heard this thousands of times through our Christian traditions, but anyway, that's enough for me.
I think too, Tim, and I appreciate you sharing that. When we think, let him do it, we're still maybe projecting that him is outside of us, right? And what we just read is that we are the first cause. So in letting him do it is really doing it ourselves. It's just allowing our mind to be in alignment with God, with the Holy Spirit, allowing us to be God, right? Because we still think that, how could I be God? Like, that's blasphemy. That's how could I possibly insinuate that I could be that great? But it says right here, there is no second, there's no third, there's no fourth. There's only the first. There's only the first cause. There's nothing else. And I think when we accept our At-One-Ment and we accept that we are all of our brothers, then there's no point in getting mad at anybody, right? Because that they're us. It's just a projection that they're separate. That was our error to begin with. And when I see someone as separate, it's my mind thinking that I can be separate, instead of knowing that you are me, I am you, and we are God. And in that case, there's no other to be angry with. There's only ourself that we can forgive and love, which then becomes the other. And in loving the other, we are loving ourselves, which I think is what this whole section was talking about, is forgiveness of the other is forgiveness of ourselves, because it's the same. Need to unmute, Leash.
There.
There you go.
That's one thing that struck me in the very first paragraph. You'll not see the symbol of your brother's guiltlessness shining within him while you still believe it's not there. His guiltlessness is your At-One-Ment. That one kind of hit me right in the forehead. Like,
Me too. I've got
and you
truth
will
bumps
see the
now.
truth of what you have acknowledged.
Right. His guiltlessness is your At-One-Ment. I love that. So good.
One of my largest antagonists in my recent past passed away last Monday, and was the chef that I worked with at Omega, and he was not really a very nice person, but I've always tried to respect him, and because I was in the process of, I'm like, as always, I'm trying to understand the One-Ment. And I saw him as me, and his death really brought a lot of stuff back up, and I was really getting to terms with the fact that we are all one, and we're all on the same levels. Doesn't matter what kind of person they are, and then all of this comes up in the reading it, so it's very prevalent to what's going on in my head right now.
That's awesome. I'm so glad. I love that when that happens. And I think that's what the Course talks about. You have to have the experience. It's not enough to know and read it. You have to have the tangible experience. You can say, oh, that's what it's talking about. Yeah.
Just a little joy-filled, quote unquote, real life experience that I've had an antagonist in the church that I belong to who's really, he has been on my case for at least 6 months everything I say or do, he finds fault with, to the point where the group of us that are searching for a new pastor, everyone is aware of it. Everyone's sensitive to it. And I just kept seeing him as also dedicated to the church. We just have totally different ways of showing that dedication, if you will. And so we were always at odds. And I just held that space of loving, that space of calm around him yelling at me and pointing fingers at me, his whole body language along with the words. Everything was so negative. And lo and behold, last week he called me up and apologized. So it's been really 9 months now, because it started in February or March. So it's been,
Wow.
so I jokingly say it was long enough to birth a new creation, because he called me up and apologized, and we now have agreed to disagree and both acknowledge our commonality, which is the love for the church. So he now, in a sense, sees what I see on a different level, but came to terms with it. So I was, so delighted that I was able to hold that space, and the group really acknowledged that, and they rallied around me. But I kept saying, this is not a battle of him and me. This is just, an example of the opposite, and what the common ground is our love for the church. And so I was able to diffuse the battle, and just everybody kept saying, wow, you can be so peaceful. You're not reacting. Did you not see his body language? Did you not, whatever? And it was just like, no, I'm not reacting, because it's not personal. He felt it was personal. I did not. And it allowed that space. And like I said, I didn't even need the apology. I was just glad he was able to come and speak to me, and we can move forward now.
That's
So
wonderful.
it wasn't about the apology, but it's great.
That's awesome. Sounds like everybody's having a lot of examples of this type of experience, which is so good.
Yeah, it's the wonderful thing about growing is I'm watching 2 women in this group came to me and said, this experience has been so empowering for us as women who feel like we don't have as much of a voice, or we back down, especially with a bully, but definitely a male, and they are finding themselves. So the experience was just so amazingly wonderful, as I'm now able to look around this table at people we've really bonded, and we can empower each other, and it just keeps on giving.
That's wonderful. That's great. All right, shall we continue, or does anybody else have another share? Keep going? Okay. Ooh, the circle of At-One-Ment. The only part of your mind that has reality is the part that links you still with God. Would you have all of it transformed into a radiant message of God's love to share with all the lonely ones who have denied him? God makes this possible. Would you deny his yearning to be known? You yearn for him as he for you. This is forever changeless. Accept then the immutable. Leave the world of death behind and return quietly to heaven. There is nothing of value here and everything of value there. Listen to the Holy Spirit and to God through him. He speaks of you to you. There is no guilt in you, for God is blessed in his Son, as the Son is blessed in him. Everyone has a special part to play in the At-One-Ment, but the message given to each one is always the same. God's Son is guiltless. Each one teaches the message differently and learns it differently. Yet until he teaches it and learns it, he will suffer the pain of dim awareness that his true function remains unfulfilled in him. The burden of guilt is heavy, but God would not have you bound by it. His plan for your awakening is as perfect as yours is fallible. You know not what you do, but he who knows is with you. His gentleness is yours, and all the love you share with God, he holds in trust for you. He would teach you nothing except how to be happy. Blessed son of a holy, blessing Father, joy was created for you. Who can condemn whom God has blessed? There is nothing in the mind of God that does not share his shining innocence. Creation is the natural extension of perfect purity. Your only calling here is to devote yourself with active willingness to the denial of guilt in all its forms. To accuse is not to understand. The happy learners of the At-One-Ment become the teachers of the innocence that is the right of all that God created. Deny them not what is their due, for you will not withhold it from them alone. The inheritance of the kingdom is the right of God's Son, given him in his creation. Do not try to steal it from him, or you will ask for guilt and will experience it. Protect his purity from every thought that would steal it away and keep it from his sight. Bring innocence to light in answer to the call of the At-One-Ment. Never allow purity to remain hidden, but shine away the heavy veils of guilt within which the Son of God has hidden himself from his own sight. We are all joined in the At-One-Ment here, and nothing else can unite us in this world. So will the world of separation slip away and full communication be restored between the Father and the Son. The miracle acknowledges the guiltlessness that must have been denied to produce the need of healing. Do not withhold this glad acknowledgement, for hope of happiness and release from suffering of every kind lie in it. Who is there but wishes to be free of pain? He may not yet have learned how to exchange guilt for innocence, nor realize that only in this exchange can freedom from pain be his. Yet those who have failed to learn need teaching, not attack. To attack those who have need of teaching is to fail to learn from them. Teachers of innocence, each in his own way, have joined together, taking their part in the unified curriculum of the At-One-Ment. There is no unity of learning goals apart from this. There is no conflict in this curriculum, which has one aim, however it is taught. Each effort made on its behalf is offered for the single purpose of release from guilt to the eternal glory of God and his creation. And every teaching that points to this points straight to heaven and the peace of God. There is no pain, no trial, no fear that teaching this can fail to overcome. The power of God himself supports this teaching and guarantees its limitless results. Join your own efforts to the power that cannot fail and must result in peace. No one can be untouched by teaching such as this. You will not see yourself beyond the power of God if you teach only this. You will not be exempt from the effects of this most holy lesson, which seeks but to restore what is the right of God's creation. From everyone whom you accord release from guilt, you will inevitably learn your innocence. The circle of At-One-Ment has no end, and you will find ever increasing confidence in your safe inclusion in the circle with everyone you bring within its safety and its perfect peace. Peace then be unto everyone who has become a teacher of peace. For peace is the acknowledgement of perfect purity, from which no one is excluded. Within its holy circle is everyone whom God created as his son. Joy is its unifying attribute, with no one left outside to suffer guilt alone. The power of God draws everyone to its safe embrace of love and union. Stand quietly within this circle and attract all tortured minds to join with you in the safety of its peace and holiness. Abide within me, within it, as a teacher of at-one-ment, not of guilt. Blessed are you who teach with me. Our power comes not of us, but of our Father. In guiltlessness we know him, as he knows us guiltless. I stand within the circle, calling you to peace. Teach peace with me and stand with me on holy ground. Remember for everyone your Father's power that he has given him. Believe not that you cannot teach his perfect peace. Stand not outside, but join with me within. Fail not the only purpose to which my teaching calls you. Restore to God his Son, as he created him, by teaching him his innocence. The crucifixion has no part in the at-one-ment. Only the resurrection became my part in it. That is the symbol of the release from guilt by guiltlessness. Whom you perceive as guilty, you would crucify, yet you restore guiltlessness to whomever you see as guiltless. Crucifixion is always the ego's aim. It sees everyone as guilty, and by its condemnation, it would kill. The Holy Spirit sees only guiltlessness, and in his gentleness, he would release from fear and reestablish the reign of love. The power of love is in his gentleness, which is of God, and therefore cannot crucify nor suffer crucifixion. The temple you restore becomes your altar, for it was rebuilt through you, and everything you give to God is yours. Thus he creates, and thus must you restore. Each one you see, you place within the holy circle of at-one-ment, or leave outside, judging him fit for crucifixion or for redemption. If you bring him into the circle of purity, you will rest there with him. If you leave him without, you join him there. Judge not except in quietness, which is not of you. Refuse to accept anyone as without the blessing of at-one-ment, and bring him into it by blessing him. Holiness must be shared, for therein lies everything that makes it holy. Come gladly to the holy circle and look out in peace on all who think they are outside. Cast no one out, for here is what he seeks, along with you. Come, let us join him in the holy place of peace, which is for all of us, united as one within the cause of peace. That is beautiful. I love that. And it says it so perfectly and so clearly and so simply.
Yeah.
I'm sure, I mean, at least for me, I know of at least one person that I have not brought into that peaceful circle, right? Because I'm judging them for they did this wrong thing, right? And in judging them, I'm leaving him outside the circle. So it's just a reminder, you know, to bring them inside the circle and see them as guiltless, no matter what, because they are guiltless.
But you can't be inside the circle unless you bring him in.
Right. But as soon as you change your mind about where you're going to bring him, you go there. Right? Because if you are in that place of seeing your brother guiltless, then you've already put yourself inside the circle.
Sure.
It's like instant, boom.
Sure.
It's interesting too, because the Course always says, I've put the solution with the problem always, right? It's always right there next to the solution is always there next to the problem. You just have to choose it.
As an example of there is no time, and as an example of opposites all have a neutrality. It's a trinity. There's opposite on each end and the neutrality, which is the spirit space. And it happens in no time because time doesn't really exist. So whatever instant of now that you are willing to accept God's will, if you will, that neutral space, that space that leaves room for joy and peace and love, then you're there.
Well
Yeah,
said, Mary. Thank you.
yeah, well said. The little willingness. You make that willingness huge, though. I mean, we do. Like, oh, no, he's so bad. I can't forgive that. I can't. My lesson is on forgiveness, and to see that, you know, what I think needs forgiveness never really happened. It didn't happen in God's reality. It happened in some perception I had, or we had, whatever. We can look at people of different races, creeds, colors, all of that stuff. We make all these little decisions, and a lot of us are just completely unaware we're going down this path. That's why I tell people, don't watch the news. What are you going to do? I mean, I think it was Ken Wapnick I heard in a thing I listened to. It said, your job on this earth is not to come in here and make it a pretty place. You know, you're here just to keep clear. That's pretty much what Mary was saying. Just keep clear. Just keep those windshield wipers trimmed. Replace them often so you can see through the sludge. Anyway.
And it's the sludge is just guilt, right? Because
Yeah.
if we can just see our brother guiltless in all ways at all times,
yeah, every
then
one of them.
That's it.
Mm.
Simple, but not always easy, right?
Yeah. I think there's a big lesson that I'm missing here, because I'm so distracted in my mind, and this is what I need. I know this is what I need to hear. So I'm going to read this again afterwards, after this session, because my brain's going, yeah, whatever. But I know it's true. I know it's so true. It's the thing.
It's interesting too, because it says, even if you read, like, why is A Course in Miracles written in this way? Because your ego mind wants to say, yeah, whatever. But then the way it's written brings you back, and it keeps bringing you back and bringing you back. So you're getting glimpses, right? You're getting bits and pieces, because like you said, Nick, you know, it's something you really need to learn. And there's that wake up. If there's that message that says, listen to this, but your ego's going, no, I don't want to hear this. I want to be right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the game would be over.
Yeah, it's true. I still want to let it go. It's like my brain's going, yeah, but he is an a-hole. He is.
There's all the evidence.
My big one too is kind of procrastinating. Like, I'm with you, Nick. I go, yeah, whatever. I'll look at it later, or I'll do that later, kind of thing, until it smacks you in the face again, and then you got to acknowledge it. Over and over and over. And believe me, we all have our list of a-holes, you know.
Yeah.
They're your greatest teachers. Terry's been telling me that for 10, 12 years.
They are. I mean, they're the ones that you need to offer gratitude to, because they're trying to teach you. Yeah. And they are your salvation. Whatever. Right? And when I say they, it's just you still, right? It's just a projection of your separation. That it's a they to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's kind of like a revelation that I had once when I was just really struggling with something. I can't even remember what it was. And I just sat quietly at the table and I just was like, okay, so this is my opportunity to ask for help. So I'm going to take all of this that's weighing in my mind. I'm going to kind of put it on a platter and offer it up. I need help. Here you go, HS, do your thing. And in that moment that I offered it up and put it out there, I fully recognize that if we are all one, the oneness of all of that is you're just asking yourself to help yourself. So in that moment, and again, that's the miracle, is simply a shift in perception. So if in that moment, I recognize that I could give it up, but it also required whatever it was in that moment to help myself, because that's what I was asking for. That to me was huge and very helpful, very helpful. And I also had one experience last Friday where I had a woman, I was sharing a story with her and about the difficulty in forgiveness. We've talked about this a lot with someone that in your mind that's in the past that never happened, but boy, does it still feel like they did you dirty. And her comment to me was, you need to understand that he must have been so damaged himself in order to hurt you that deeply. And for some reason, I might have heard it 100 times before, but that resonated with me. And what it did in that miracle moment, that holy instant, was it allowed me to turn this around and literally transmutate all of the anger that I had for that particular situation and flick on the compassion switch in that, God, he's messed up. I could say to myself a million times before, this had nothing to do with me. I didn't, this didn't have anything to do with me, or I didn't bring this on. I didn't create that. Well, I did. You got to be careful what you ask for. I get that too. But in that moment, I was able to switch that. And so it's weird how just that one single phrase that he must have been really damaged in order to do that has brought me so much peace in the last 10 days. It's just kind of bizarre. And I have had so many experiences like that where, you study, you learn, you review, you talk. You study, you learn, you review, you talk. You've heard it because the text, okay, here we go. What's 1,300 pages of the same stuff said a million different ways. And all of a sudden, the 1,000,001st time you hear pretty much the same thing that you've heard the other 1,000,000 times just resonates with you completely different. That to me is the miracle right there. So I guess
your vibration.
Go ahead, Mary.
No, I was just going to say, because your vibration at that 1,000,001 time, your vibration was in the space, and you could hear it, you could accept it, you could, and the other times it wasn't.
Even allow it,
exactly.
Because that wall was pretty high and pretty thick. Because I've said it a million times before, getting stuck there and feeling like if I let this go, it's kind of like condoning it. And boy, I wasn't going to go there. But again, you turn it around and see it through a different facet. Every situation might have, 15 different facets that it depends on which one you're looking through that allows you to see it differently. And you're right, Mary. It's just something shifted that allowed me to actually resonate with that time. So.
Nick and I had that conversation earlier, that question, well, if I allow it, then I'm condoning it, and that's what the ego wants to tell you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very loudly.
Mm-hmm.
Very loudly. And some people's egos chirp in their ears a lot louder than others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and if they're guilty of it and you're condoning it, then you must be guilty of it too.
Yeah, exactly. It's just dropping that, because I think that's the thing. It's like it's still having them so guilty that if I just accept this and allow this and say they're guiltless, I'm just kind of almost like taking one
Yeah.
just to deal with it, when it's actually that's not the way it is at all. But as I said to you earlier, actually, when we're discussing it, it's like actually what's interesting is actually the feeling of the anxiety and the anger that it gets up within me. I'm able, when I meditate, to just feel when that, because it does transform, it goes really calm. It's like a real buzz in the heart. It's really quite beautiful. And I think that's probably the access for me, is to just do the meditation, because then you feel the love, which I not been used to feeling. So it's kind of like by that, it's like, it's almost like it's given me the access to feel that love.
Yeah.
But perhaps I just need to meditate a bit more sometimes.
And you know, that's great, because that is where you're taking that place of fear and you're changing it to love, right? Because if we're in that place of fear, we're not going to solve anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you can just get into that place of love and then know to let it go and give it to the Holy Spirit, which is in your mind, right? Which is also part of who you are, that connection to that one mind of God. If you can then make that decision, okay, now I give this to the Holy Spirit to solve. And then it allows the information to come through you, because you are just part of the first cause. You're not the second, the third, or the fourth.
Yes.
And then you open yourself up to that knowledge.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's not like you're giving it away and expecting someone else to fix it for you. It's like you're allowing the truth of who you are to be revealed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the imagery I used to have. I used to think of this as like climbing the mountain and doing it myself and getting to the peak and looking out at all the splendor. And that image still has a lot of validity, if you will, setting the intention, doing the work, going step by step. And then I realized there are other images. We now have created technology that allows me to take an elevator or take a cog rail or do something else, which is a lot less stressful. I can observe all the beauty of things, which you can as you're climbing the mountain as well. But there's a lot less work on my part involved in feeling the energy shift as I go from floor to floor or level to level on that thing, which is easier. And I still get to go to the top and look out over this vast, beautiful world and life that we have. So I like to take it the easy way, the quicker way, if you will. And I have still done the work, because the work is all me, all internal, and I don't have to wait until I'm physically fit enough to climb that mountain, which probably won't happen in this lifetime anyway. so I've changed that visual for me, and as I saw that change, this whole enlivening in spirit got easier and easier when I kind of left the challenge part out and just let the willingness part in.
That's awesome, Mary. I like that. The easy button.
Good. Good.
Right. Do we have time to read one more? I think it's only 2 pages, The Light of Communication. We've got
Yeah.
about 13 minutes.
Yeah.
Of
All right,
course.
let's read one more and then we can discuss. This looks like a good one to leave it on. The Light of Communication. The journey that we undertake together is the exchange of dark for light, of ignorance for understanding. Nothing you understand is fearful. It is only in darkness and in ignorance that you perceive the frightening and shrink away from it to further darkness. And yet it is only the hidden that can terrify, not for what it is, but for its hiddenness. The obscure is frightening because you do not understand its meaning. If you did, it would be clear, and you would be no longer in the dark. Nothing has hidden value, for what is hidden cannot be shared, and so its value is unknown. The hidden is kept apart, but value always lies in joint appreciation. What is concealed cannot be loved, and so it must be feared. The quiet light in which the Holy Spirit dwells within you is merely perfect openness, in which nothing is hidden, and therefore nothing is fearful. Attack will always yield to love if it is brought to love, not hidden from it. There is no darkness that the light of love will not dispel, unless it is concealed from love's beneficence. What is kept apart from love cannot share its healing power, because it has been separated off and kept in darkness. The sentinels of darkness watch over it carefully, and you who made these guardians of illusion out of nothing are now afraid of them. Would you continue to give imagined power to these strange ideas of safety? They are neither safe nor unsafe. They do not protect, neither do they attack. They do nothing at all, being nothing at all. As guardians of darkness and of ignorance, look to them only for fear, for what they keep obscure is fearful. But let them go, and what was fearful will be so no longer. Without protection of obscurity, only the light of love remains, for only this has meaning and can live in light. Everything else must disappear. Death yields to life simply because destruction is not true. The light of guiltlessness shines guilt away, because when they are brought together, the truth of one must make the falsity of its opposite perfectly clear. Keep not guilt and guiltlessness apart, for your belief that you can have them both is meaningless. All you have done by keeping them apart is lose their meaning by confusing them with each other. And so you do not realize that only one means anything. The other is wholly without sense of any kind. You have regarded the separation as a means for breaking your communication with your Father. The Holy Spirit reinterprets it as a means of reestablishing what was not broken, but has been made obscure. All things you made have use to him for his most holy purpose. He knows you are not separate from God, but he perceives much in your mind that lets you think you are. All this and nothing else would he separate from you. The power of decision, which you made in place of the power of creation, he would teach you how to use on your behalf. You who made it to crucify yourself must learn of him how to apply it to the holy cause of restoration. You who speak in dark and devious symbols do not understand the language you have made. It has no meaning, for its purpose is not communication, but rather the disruption of communication. If the purpose of language is communication, how can this tongue mean anything? Yet even this strange and twisted effort to communicate through not communicating holds enough of love to make it meaningful if its interpreter is not its maker. You who made it are but expressing conflict, from which the Holy Spirit would release you. Leave what you would communicate to him. He will interpret it to you with perfect clarity, for he knows with whom you are in perfect communication. You know not what you say, and so you know not what is said to you. Yet your interpreter perceives the meaning in your alien language. He will not attempt to communicate the meaningless, but he will separate out all that has meaning, dropping off the rest and offering your true communication to those who would communicate as truly with you. You speak two languages at once, and this must lead to unintelligibility. Yet if one means nothing and the other everything, only that one is possible for purposes of communication. The other but interferes with it. The Holy Spirit's function is entirely communication. He, therefore, must remove whatever interferes with communication in order to restore it. Therefore, keep no source of interference from his sight, for he will not attack your sentinels, but bring them to him, and let his gentleness teach you that in the light they are not fearful, and cannot serve to guard the dark doors behind which nothing at all is carefully concealed. We must open all doors and let the light come streaming through. There are no hidden chambers in God's temple. Its gates are open wide to greet his son. No one can fail to come where God has called him, if he close not the door himself upon his Father's welcome. Okay. Seems simple enough, right?
But not easy. And that really reminds me of how important it is for me to open up the channels again with the Holy Spirit.
Right? We always forget to do that. I always forget to do that. I always think I know, right? I always think, well, I do yoga, I do meditation, I read Course in Miracles. I know this. I know all of this stuff, right? But still, it's just a reminder to let it go and let the Holy Spirit take over, because I don't know.
If you did, you wouldn't need the yoga and the meditation and the
Right.
That's right. That's true too.
Mm-mm.
Very interesting. Well, we've got about 5 minutes left to discuss. I don't think I'm going to read anything. And again, once again, I won't be here next Monday. So you have the week off. I hope you all enjoy your holiday festivities if you are celebrating or whatever you're up to. And once again, you can always reach out to me.
I love the in that last paragraph, the first couple of sentences, the Holy Spirit's function is entirely communication. He therefore must remove whatever interferes with communication in order to restore it. The real communication, the love, the acceptance, the seeing our brother as, hey, that could be me, whatever that is. So it's that humility that we have to take on that garb, if you will, that cloak of it's been said in the Bible, that there but the grace of God goes I. Well, that's missing it, because that's making them separate. The ones who allowed whatever got published in the Bible screened out a lot of stuff that it would have avoided some confusion. But the message is basically there, that we're all worthy. As how many remember Wayne's World, when Wayne and his buddy there were in front of some, I can't even remember the rock and roll group, but they were worshiping. We're not worthy.
That was Aerosmith.
Aerosmith, right. That came to me earlier. It's this we're not worthy thing. Well, that's just a lot of bull. That's poppycock. That's all these thousands of words we have for being unworthy. I mean, my God, we are nothing but worthy. That's all we are. The rest of this is just made up charades. We're moving into a holiday that there's all this pomp and circumstance, and I mean, oh my God, city festivals and it's nice, but look, I just emailed one of my daughter, my son-in-law, they had a list of presents there, and I said, well, I don't know, I'm evaluating who's naughty and nice, and I'm going to go back and go, hey, I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to have judgment out there, especially, well, I won't even say especially this time of year, because again, that's another definition that Tim is putting on. Hey, every instant, I can't click my thumb and finger fast enough is an opportunity to let go. And it's just seeing that my agenda is no agenda. I don't want to live in a world of pain and suffering and making judgments about people. Who am I to judge anybody for what they're doing? I don't know them. All I know is that they have their own illusions. So we can join hands literally in an instant, and we can walk out of this and spread this light everywhere, constantly, without end. We don't ever have to disconnect. We just have to help each of us remember. It's not like I'm more educated or whatever.
Yeah, it all goes back to that circle of atonement, of At-One-Ment, right? If we're judging others, we put ourselves outside the circle.
Outside the circle.
And if we see everyone as guiltless, then we bring them in with us, and we automatically go inside the circle.
Yeah, it's so simple. It is incredibly simple.
Yeah, and you just showed us a lot of examples now, Tim, that you're
Oh.
experiencing. And again, it goes back to your brother is always offering you an opportunity at salvation, right?
Yeah.
Choice,
Yeah,
choice,
if you're
choice,
seeing him
inside, outside.
Yeah, if you're seeing him lacking in any way at all, my wife, who's in this with me as much as we can be, we're trying to undo as much as we can, as often as we can. And just, you're seeing him that way means you're that way. Oh, no. Oh, wait a minute. I guess she's right. Damn it. We don't want the other person to be right, because that's another ego thing. So if we're feeling that, I mean, it's like, oh my God, it's constant.
It's another opportunity, right? Another opportunity to be love.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll hush up.
All right, everyone. With that, I will say adieu unless anyone else has something they'd like to share before I close this session. All right. Great
Thank
to have
you.
all of you here.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Hope everybody
you,
has a nice
everybody.
holiday.
Really.
Nice Christmas.
Thank you, Alicia.
Yes. Happy Christmas.
Yes,
Happy Christmas.
Yeah.
definitely.
Only.
to all of you as well. Whatever you're celebrating, happy love.
Yes, happy
Yes.
love.
All right. We'll
right,
see
bye,
you in
everyone.
2 weeks.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Terry.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Sleep.